Hey guys, it's Saved by Vape again, and today we're going to be doing another hardware review. This one is on the Tsunami RDA by Geekvape. So let's go down close and I'll tell you what I think about it.
Alright guys, so we're up close with the Tsunami RDA by Geekvape. This is their newest addition to their line of atomizers, being, I believe, if you're not counting the avocado take, Geekvape's first dripper. So what's very interesting about this dripper is that it sort of combines the styles of two previously successful drippers. That is, you have Kennedy style bottom airflow that comes up under these two holes right up to your coil, and then you have a velocity style deck. Normally, I'm honestly not a real big fan of two-post decks, just because I'm so used to building on a four-post deck, and it's just what I enjoy doing. However, on this one, as you can see, these holes are humongous. They're 4 millimeters by 2 millimeter rectangles. So because of that, they come almost all the way to the center here. So the thing that I didn't like about usual two-post decks is that they usually spread your coil out, and it just really bothers me. But for this, I found that it's actually been pretty easy to get the coils centered and to keep them clean. This is a dual fused Clapton build with two 26 gauge cores wrapped in 34 gauge. So it's not a small build by any means, and these are 3 millimeter inner diameter, and it fits just beautifully. This deck is extremely easy to build on. It's 22 millimeters in diameter, so it should fit flush on all of your mechanical mods and look good on pretty much any box mod. One thing to talk about here is that O-ring tolerances. When I first got it, it was extremely tight. But after the first time I used it, and this is completely clean right now, so there's not any juice on it to lubricate it. Sorry for the background noise. But they're just wonderful. A little tight when it's completely dry, but absolutely nothing to complain about. Once it gets just a little bit wet, the fit is just, it's very satisfying. Click on and click off. Yeah, so no complaints there. So let me show you what you get in the box here. I'll put these off to the side. This is the box it comes in, by the way. Very nice packaging. Sort of got these squiggles that are shiny with a matte black finish. It says Tsunami Geekvape and sort of just shows the dimensions on the back. Now, actually, it looks like on the back here, it shows the diameters of the post holes as 3 millimeters wide by 2.1 millimeters tall. But I've actually read different dimensions elsewhere, and those to me look more like 4 millimeter post holes than 3 millimeter, 4 millimeters wide, that is. So I'm not really sure what to believe here. The screws themselves are 4 millimeters wide. So one thing that they say is that it's hardness of stainless steel 316 set screws at 55-58 HRC by 1200 degrees Celsius nitrogen surface treatment. Do I know exactly what that means? Absolutely not. But basically what they're trying to say is that these screws are very hard and very difficult to strip. So that I have noticed. I've only built on it twice so far, but they're great. It's like once your Allen key tightens, it just stops and the screws just stay in place. No like extra turns, no loosening, no spinning your Allen key around in the post, nothing like that. They are very nice screws, that's for sure. Alright, so anyway, what's inside here? Obviously it comes like this with your dripper installed. You get this wide bore, completely, I guess, circular drip tip. These screw in and out. Threads on there are very nice. But it also comes with slightly smaller bore drip tip that's got this conical shape. I actually haven't used this one yet, so maybe when we go back up top I'll vape on this mouthpiece right here. Make it look like that. And then you also have your stainless steel wide bore drip tip, sort of a conical shape in there. Underneath, get this out of here. Have your bag of spares. You have extra O-rings for both the for the base, as well as for the drip tip. It looks like these small ones here. Gets 4 replacement screws and a 510 drip tip adapter that screws into the top here. So you get a nice bit of extras. I've only been using it the one way, and that is with the widest bore drip tip, but like I said, for this video I will try it out with the conical drip tip and let you know how that is. Yeah, so I think, guys, that is really it for the up and close here. If I forgot to mention anything, I will mention it when we go back up top. But yeah, guys, that is the Tsunami RDA by Geekvape.
Alright guys, so that was the up and close of the Tsunami RDA by Geekvape. Let's get right to the pros and to the cons and to some tips that I have for you when using this RDA. First pro, extremely easy to build on. The way that the 2-post deck is split up and so that the post holes are very long, you can build right in the middle, you can build very spread out, and it's just very easy to get your coils perfectly centered and perfectly aligned right over those airflow holes. This is a subjective pro, but the looks are very, very clean. There's no sort of logos or anything on the outside of it. The only logo is actually under the top cap, where it says Tsunami right there. Definitely not a subjective pro, is that the flavor off of this thing is incredible, and I think anybody who uses this RDA would notice that. I'm vaping it at 98.5 watts, 0.23 dual fuse Clapton build, the one that I showed you in the up close, and the flavor is stellar. I'm gonna have the airflow about 2/3 of the way up and maybe a little bit more using that conical drip tip. The flavor is crystal clear. I am vaping some of the Punkberry yogurt by Mohawk Vapors, and everything is coming through. It's a strawberry frozen yogurt, tasting clean strawberry, clean yogurt, just delicious taste at 98.5 watts. There's also a ton of airflow in this. When I have it all the way open, it's just, it's so swooshy. The flavor doesn't seem to be sacrificed when you have it open all the way. It definitely makes the clouds bigger, and the flavor's still very, very good. The flavor might be a little bit better when it is closed off a little bit more, but it's not like, you know, a world of difference or anything. Another pro is that there's those 3 drip tip options. So you get the conical, a little bit more comfortable, less wide bore tip. You get the very wide bore tip, and then you get a 510 drip tip adapter if you want to use your own mouthpiece. Another pro is the price. This dripper is $30 or less, depends on where you get it online. I bought it on vapenw.com, and I believe it was $28.99 plus $5 shipping, so I got it for $33, $34, and it came in 2 or 3 days, so very, very inexpensive. Now for the cons, I have noticed that this does get pretty messy. I don't know if you can see this very well, but there's a lot of condensation on the mod here. And it's not because that the liquid is dripping down the airflow holes and then out there. I think it's just from the condensation of it. You know, when you have your coils popping, they pretty much shoot juice down those airflow holes. And then if you ever do that, like, that thing where you blow out before you breathe in, you get the coils kind of primed. I definitely get juice all over this thing. It's not so bad like underneath, and it doesn't really get into the 510, but in terms of around the connection, I get juice everywhere. Another con, and this is going to depend on what you build in there, but the first build I put in there was like a fuse Clapton with ribbon wire, and it just got so hot, and this thing was just like, if you touched your lips to it when you were raving, it would burn. Like, it was very, very hot. It's not so bad with this build. The build quality is really, really good. That's another pro. But this top barrel is on a little bit on the thin side. Just a little bit. It's not like paper thin or anything, but it could be a little thicker, and I think that's what's adding to the heat. And then the biggest con, for me at least, was that when I got this, there was so much machine oil on it. So I cleaned it out once, soap and hot water, vaped it. Ugh, awful flavor, just a terrible first impression. Because I could taste that machine oil. There was just this nasty, I don't even know how to explain it, just burnt, awful taste to it. Cleaned it out again, a little bit better. So what I ended up having to do was actually take the O-rings off of the base, clean them and clean under them, and then the taste went away. So I had to do a lot of cleaning to get this RDA to the point where the actual flavor and experience was to the fullest. So a couple tips that I have for this dripper is that when you're wicking it, I should have showed this in the up close, but I like to keep the wicks going down into the channels loosely. You definitely don't want it to be too tight, because on this, if you drip down the center and your wicks are tight, it's going to have trouble feeding that cotton. It's just going to dry up really fast. So one thing that I've been doing with this dripper, instead of dripping down the middle like I usually do, I have to take the whole top cap off and just sort of paint the coils. It's not the end of the world because a lot of people do this anyway. I'm just pretty used to drippers where I can kind of just drip right down the middle and not really worry about it. This isn't one of those. Like, if you drip right down the middle excessively, you're going to deal with leaks. So that's definitely a con, but it's fixable. I have looser wicking, not through the coil, but looser going down into it. And sort of, if you imagine, if these are your wicks sticking out each side, I cut them at an angle so they're like this, so that they're just a little looser, and then shove that down, and that seems to be working a lot better. Last tip I have, in terms of where to build, I have my coils about, I'd say 2 millimeters from the top of these posts, and then about 4 millimeters above those airflow holes. First build I did was pretty high up. That might have contributed to the heat a lot, but the flavor suffered a little bit. And then if you build down too low, when you fire it, it's just gonna throw so much juice down those airflow holes. Oh yeah, and that's another thing. Another reason you get juice all over the place is with this, is just the nature of it. When you get juice around this piece, the metal base, and then you take your top cap and put it down, you're pretty much just shoving that juice all the way down, and eventually it does build up around the sides. Not a huge deal, and if you're OCD and you try to be really clean with it, you can definitely avoid that, but I've had it for maybe a week now, and I can't seem to really avoid the problem of getting juice on this, so that's why I only really use it on my Sigelli instead of my DNA 200 mod, because I just don't want to get juice all over that thing, and this one's a little bit more of a workhorse, so it doesn't really matter as much. But yeah, I think that's really it, guys. It's definitely an awesome dripper. The flavor's very good, the clouds are very good, and the value is very, very good. There are still those few cons though, with if you're building a hot build, this dripper will get very hot. And wicking it, because there's not too much space around those airflow holes to get your cotton, if you don't keep your wicks loose, it's gonna have trouble feeding, and you're just gonna have to paint your coils instead of dripping right down the middle. But yeah, that's it, guys. Let me use it just one more time. The flavor and the smoothness of the draw is fantastic. I would definitely recommend this dripper despite the cons. Every dripper has its con or cons, and this one is no exception to that. It is not perfect, but it is fantastic. Yeah, alright, thanks for watching, guys.